Okay, welcome to my video about removing a hack on a website. I'm going to walk you through this whole process. This website has been infected by malware. So if I type in this website, it's westernshooter.com, and we're going to look at what's wrong with it. First of all, did you see that? It got a redirect right away. It redirected to this website. And if you look, now it's trying to tell me I've got spyware and all this kind of garbage, right? So this is bad. We don't want people to go here. And obviously it's not true. It's not getting away with what it's claiming to, but it's just saying that. So now if I type it in again, now it's going to take me to this actual website. So here we are on the WordPress website. So I've got access to the backend and I've got access to the hosting. The hosting is through HostMonster. And so I'm going to log in there and then we can go from there. Okay, so now we're logged into the hosting here and we can go from here to try to see what's going on. I also want to get logged into WordPress since that's a key part of this. So I'll get logged in here. Okay, so I got logged in here and you can see it's out of date and there's all these messages that stuff needs to be done on the site. And we can't really tell even what version of WordPress is actually running because WordPress doesn't show us this, which I've always found kind of frustrating. So I don't know how far out of date it is. Is it just a little out of date? Is it way out of date? You know, what's likely to have transpired here and stuff like that? We can't tell any of that stuff right away. So what I usually do is jump over here into the hosting or log in with FTP. And then I can go ahead and start looking at the files and see, you know, what we've actually got going on. So the very first thing is make sure we're working in the right place. So I don't know if this folder is the right folder for this site or if it could actually be installed in the public HTML folder here. I don't know which one that is. So that would be a good thing to determine too. So we need to make sure that we are working in the right location. And then once we know that, then we can go from there. Another thing that we can also do is use a scanner like Security Site Check to give us some information before we even do anything else at all. So this is a good thing to do right up front. We can just grab the URL of the site and go ahead and pop it in there. And it may give us some information about what kind of malware this is and stuff that we can't tell as easily looking at what's actually going on. So as you can see, yep, it's saying, oh, you got malware found. There's this redirector, and it's a known malware, so that's a good thing. That means we can get an idea of what's going on with it and what we need to do to clean it up. So I'll open that in a new tab so we can take a look at what's going on there. Oh, it's only giving us the basics right there. So anyway, as you can see, it's infected on several levels. There's several things going on here. All kinds of stuff, and you can see that it found it showing up in at least this folder here, plugins index, which is I don't believe is a actual plugin, but we'll have to look and see to make sure. And then there's also it's just showing up on various stuff, like this is just a post on the site. Same thing here. So it's showing up a number of places and in a number of ways. We can get more details here and see what the actual script is, so like what it's actually running. And this will be helpful down the road when we want to check the database and just see if, for example, stuff like this is still in the database. We can search for that URL in the database to just see. And it looks like it's mostly that same one. I'll just check a few of these real quick. Yeah, mostly that same domain that's going on, but there's also, looks like here's some other stuff. A different payload, Beidou.com, that we need to look into as well. So this is great. So we kind of have an idea of what's going on. I couldn't even scan the contact page. That's a bad thing. Website blacklist. It's on the Norton website and the Yandex, but it hasn't been hit by Google yet. So that's a good thing, because that means we don't have to try to get it off the blacklist of Google if we hurry up and get it done right away. But we will still need to follow up with Norton WebSafe and Yandex to try and remove those. So this is a very helpful tool from Security. So now let's go to the next problem. So the next problem is we need to try to figure out where this site is actually running from. We want to make sure that we're working on the right one in the right folder. The other one we may recommend to them that they delete so that there's no potential malware left over there. And as you can see here, this was running WordFence. It was running a security plugin. I don't know how well it was configured or anything like that, but that is a factor in all of this. It's a good thing to point out to people that, hey, just because you have a security plugin or whatever doesn't mean that you'll be safe if there's a major vulnerability discovered in something that it's running on your site, like WordPress itself or a plugin or something along those lines. So if you notice down here, WordPress only tells us get version, and it tells us to get the latest version, but it doesn't actually tell us what the version of WordPress that's currently running is. And I've always wished that they would just show us the actual version and then suggest the upgrade or something like that, at least in the admin, because here we know that, or at least for admin users, it would be okay to tell us if there's a security vulnerability on the version that's running. You don't want to advertise that to the world, and that's totally understandable, but why don't they just show it to us here? That would make our lives so much easier. So first we need to discover which folder here is the actual one for the live site. So what we can do on that is go to, and this is all cPanel, it's all branded with Host Monster. This could be different on your hosting if they don't use cPanel. It will, even if they do use cPanel, it'll almost definitely look differently. Oh, so it's saying there's a new cPanel page. Let's see what the new one looks like, because this other stuff was goofing up anyway. Anyway, yours will definitely look different. Yeah, see, even Host Monster has already updated theirs, but this is not what it typically looks for, or looks like. They've added their colors and all that kind of stuff, but you'll find most of the stuff is the same. So what we want is phpMyAdmin, and rather than try to find it in all this mess, I like to just search like this. I'm not a big fan of cPanel, so you may hear me say some things like that just sound like I'm not real excited about it or whatever it might be. And that's true. I don't really love cPanel. It does lots of things, and it's not really a master of any of those things. And so that's part of the problem that we run into. So now that we've gotten in here to our databases, we can try to take a look and figure out where this site is loading from, what folders and stuff. So here's one folder, and it has very little. So I'm going to go to the options table, or excuse me, not one folder. This is one database. So I can see that that one's not it. So let's go to the next one, and we'll hit the options here. And I check the domain, and this one does say Western Shooter. Okay, so this appears to be the one for that. But now there could be two databases, just like there's two folders. So I want to keep checking, but I'm going to remember that WRD5 is the database for this particular one. Now we're going to hit the options table on the next one. That is not it. Options again. Nope. Oh yeah, just as I suspected, I found another database that also has shooting outfitters, so the site we're working on. So how do we know which one is the correct one? That's the question at this point. Here's, Western Shooter, blah, blah, blah. And then same thing up here and this one. So how do we know which one is the actual live site? Because we want to work on the one that's correct. The easy way to tell is just look at the things that are different. So here the tagline is set to your free online gun magazine. And this one, as you can see, is set to just another WordPress site. So this one is not the correct one. So then we need to figure out where this one's located at. So which one uses the WRD1 database, and that will tell us which one's the wrong one, and WRD5 is the correct one. So we need to figure out which install is which. So I'm going to go back to cPanel here. And we're going to go back to the file manager that we were in before. I always like to show hidden files, especially when you're trying to remove a hack on a website. And we'll go ahead and open this up. Now you can do the same thing in FTP or whatever your hosting company has available, but this is what this hosting has. So I'm going to come down here to public HTML, and first I'm going to check the one that's installed in this main folder. So I'm going to edit the WP config. For some reason it's not opening correctly, and I have to drag the text area way bigger. But what you can see here right away is that this one is the WRD1. So this must be an old copy of the website that is no longer valid. It doesn't work anymore, and so it's no good. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one from the server. Like I want to get rid of it completely because it is just potentially another hazard. It's sitting there not doing anything at all, and possibly just have insecure files and stuff that can be hacked. So I want to remove this one, and it's a database entirely. Now I'm not going to show you how to do that. I'm going to skip that part. We're going to go right to removing the hack on the other one. So now we know which one is correct. I'll bet if we go in here just to make sure, we can go in this folder and double check ourselves by going to WP config. And it doesn't really matter if you edit or code edit, but I'm going to do code edit because it's going to get more consistent. Studio West. Okay, so this adds a new wrinkle. Now we find out that its database is this instead of what I thought, WP5 or whatever it was. So let's go back here, and we'll go back to phpMyAdmin. I'm going to open it in a new window this time, and let's check for that West database and see if we can tell what's going on with that. Okay, so right here there is a West database. So there's another one that I didn't think to check on, and it looks like it has the same stuff. So right now we can't really tell, which one is it? Is it this one or is it WRDP5? Which is it? So one easy way to figure that out really quick is just to change the tagline right here. The site's already hacked, we can change it back later, but let's just change this to something like that. So now that's going to write back to the database that's in there. And so now if we reload this page, it should tell us if we're on the right one. So I think it reloaded the West one. Okay, options. I just want to make sure. As you can see, it says this is the live site. So now we know this is it. So this West one is the correct one. So I'm going to delete the other two databases and also any folders and stuff associated with the other ones. Again, I'm not going to do that here. We're going to move on. But now we know which site we're dealing with, which one is the correct one. So I can come back over here and correct this. And everything's good and back to the way it was. So now we know which one we want to work on. So it is the one in this folder here, Western Shooter. That is the live site and is writing to that database. So now we can go from there. Again, we know we've got malware-infected, but we don't know exactly what's wrong or where it's coming from. And we don't know which all files really should be on here, like what's legit and what's not. We just don't know. So what I find is best as the next step is basically to get rid of whatever you can get rid of, first of all. For example, you see here, right there is a WordFence file. Well, do we really know that's a WordFence file or not? Now, if I was an advanced developer, I could probably go through and check what this means and what it's doing and all that kind of stuff. It looks like it's probably legitimate, but I don't know for sure. And so, but the thing is that the WordFence plugin will recreate that for me. Will set that up for me. if I need it again. So what I like to do is the very first step is just to come in here and let's just start getting rid of plugins. Why do I do that? Well, we need to basically get fresh, clean copies of everything that's on this website, and we need to put them on here. So if we can eliminate a bunch of it and have less to work with, then that just makes the process much easier, if that makes sense. So like this plugin, it's already disabled. I know I can get rid of that. Feature me. Featured entries list for your blog, XML sitemaps, and it looks like there's updates for some of these, but most of it looks like is being used, or there's an option to be used. Like this one, it says it has to be configured in order to work. So let's just deactivate that one and get rid of it. WordPress security is also an easy one to reinstall. Especially since they're not using a premium version, so I'm going to get rid of that one as well. I've talked to the site owner, and he's not, actively using this site. He just hates the fact that it's hacked, and would like it to just work normally. So I know I can get rid of this watermark one. I could also start searching through some of these and see if there are known vulnerabilities for any of these plugins. That's one way to go about it. But for me, I'm just going to try and eliminate as many of these as I can. I think also that this theme is very out of date, is way behind. And so as such, we're probably going to try to change the theme at the end. But for now, we're just going to try to clean things up as much as we possibly can and see if we can get this site cleaned up again. So there's a few sliders on here. I don't know which one's being used. So for right now, I'm going to leave them alone. But later on in the process, you'll see we'll try to update those. And another thing you can do is even just click on the plugin really quick right here and see when it was last updated. So this one was last updated 7 years ago. Chances that there's a problem here are actually pretty high. So probably need to get rid of that one. Let's see here. Same thing here, 7 years ago. So this Lightbox or Shadowbox plugin probably needs to go. Sociable plugin. 6 years ago. So a lot of this stuff hasn't been touched in a long time. So if you can afford to kind of be the bull in the china shop, then what you want to do is really just delete as much of this as you think you can get away with. So like the FeedBurner plugin, I don't think we're going to use. If we change the themes, I'm probably not going to need that one either. This one we should probably get a different plugin for, though it's good that there is an updated version. Let's see how recently that's updated. 4 months ago, so that's good. So we could keep that one, though we probably want to upload a fresh copy of it. The Shadowbox one, as I said, it's just too old. We're going to get rid of it. The V slider we'll probably get rid of. And WordTwit. I'm just going to strip most of these out. Yeah, it's paging navigation. Okay, that's a cool plugin. I know what that is. I know how it works. So we want to keep that one for right now. So all these, I'm just going to get rid of them entirely. Let's do this first. So this is going to eliminate a whole bunch of code for us, a bunch of folders that we don't have to worry about. And as we try to clean this site up. So let's just go ahead and delete them all. So that eliminates all that code and stuff that we don't have to deal with anymore. Now, it may depend on the severity of your hack and stuff and where you're at. Maybe you don't want to change your theme. Maybe you want to keep a bunch of your plugins, stuff like that. You have to take that all into consideration at this phase. But I'm trying to make it as simple and as fast as possible. So now that I've done that, most used plugin. Where's this Jetpack thing coming from? Let's get rid of that. So apparently there's some kind of a single sign-on that plugin that looks like HostGator's maybe making them use, etc. Oh, maybe it's coming from this one. View details. So after the deadline, I believe got merged into Jetpack, so we should probably get rid of that one as well. Oops. That's not a good sign. Data feeder, there's no link to WordPress.org to see when it was last updated. Fast secure. Does not look like it is in business either. So it could have been any of these plugins that's out of date or that has a known vulnerability. So we're going to deactivate those ones as well. Now some functionality is probably going to be lost on the site, and I'll just have to work with the site owner to bring that back if that's the case. For example, the contact form is not going to work anymore, assuming it's using that contact form. So we'll want to upgrade that with something more modern like WP forms or Ninja forms, since those are both free. I personally prefer Gravity forms, kind of the granddaddy, but it has expense associated with it, and this person is not a member of WordExpress, so we don't include that for them for free. This is just kind of a one-time project I agreed to do for him, so we could make this video and educate all of you how to unhack your WordPress website. So now we've got it way limited down. This is gonna bring the amount of code down a ton, right? Same thing with the theme. This theme is old and outdated, and I have no idea if it's ever updated anymore. I guess we can click here and kind of try to get an idea. Webdesignlessons.com. Yeah, see, it's defunct. This is a landing page. This is not an actual page. It's not useful. So it's basically dead. So best option is to just switch to one of the default themes that we know is updated and has a new version available. Look at this. Oh man, there's a blast from the past. It has a really old version of the default theme. Man, I remember when WordPress looked like that. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to also do the same thing with the themes. I'm going to get rid of most of the themes so I don't have to worry about updating those or copying over a new clean version of that either. WordPress Classic, huh? Yeah, this site's got some old stuff on here, which is awesome that you can see there's still updates available for these. They're still actively updating these, keeping them safe and secure, but I don't need them all. We only need one theme on this site for the time being. Actually, you know what's even better? Is let's just delete them all, because then we don't have to copy over a fresh copy manually. We can just do it right here in the WordPress admin. So I'm going to delete each of these so that they are all gone, and then we'll download a fresh, clean copy that comes straight from WordPress.org. So we'll hit Add New and go ahead and see what we got here. 2019 looks great. Actually, I think I'm going to go with 2015. I kind of really like that one. It's got a clean, simple look, and it will work for now until we decide other options for this site. So we went ahead and activated it, and now I can go ahead and delete the old theme. So if the hack came through the old theme and those files are infected, or one of the other themes that were installed, that's all gone now. Even the 2015 theme has been reinstalled fresh, right? So we know that those files are all eliminated, that there's no more potential for malware or anything like that on there. So we've potentially eliminated the back door at this point. We don't know that for sure, but potentially we have. For the remaining plugins, we could do the same thing actually, and that's probably the best idea, is especially for the ones that need to be updated, is rather than update them, is to just reinstall them. So I'm gonna just show you one example, but then and then pause it so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But basically what we would do is to say, okay, we want to keep a Kismet. That's a good one, you know, it helps us with spam. So we're just going to delete it, and then we're going to add it new and just search. And install that and activate it. Now, there's a chance that this is an active malware and it may, you know, try to respond to what I'm doing, but chances are it's not. It's just some code that needs to be eliminated somewhere. That code may exist in the database, or it may exist in the website's files somewhere. We are right now eliminating all those files, right? We've just eliminated all the plugins except for these ones. And even at Kismet now, we deleted the entire folder, and then reinstalled it to bring it back. So that one's clean. I'm going to repeat the process for these other ones. Okay, so if you're curious about what you do to set up FTP, basically you need an FTP client. You'll go to the FTP section here, or in your cPanel there's something about FTP, and it looks generally like this, and you just set up a new FTP account. That's what I did. I put in some stuff here, fill this out, and create a new FTP account. And then I went over to my FTP client, which is called Transmit. I really like Transmit for the Mac. And I put in that stuff here, and then I logged in. So now I'm logged in here. So this is, you'll see the same folder structure and files that we were seeing in the file manager, in cPanel file manager, but now it's here in Transmit. So I want to go into the public HTML folder. And again, I mentioned the htaccess file that you see before. Well, here's a whole bunch of them now. And if I look at one of these others, let's see if they have, yeah, see it has the htaccess file. So I'm guessing that our folder here will also have one that I couldn't see it in there. So this is another advantage, is that I have turned on view, show hidden files. So now it's set to hide, but I changed it from hide to show. Now we're still seeing a few files left in here. This one may be user.ini, maybe one that HostGator needs. So I need to check that, but I'm going to edit it and just take a look real quick. WordFence, WAF, it's WordFence related, so I've already eliminated WordFence, so I can eliminate that here. Automatic updates. Let's see what that one has to say. Plugin core themes. So I'm not sure if that's saying it's not updating those things automatically. But again, I'm going to just delete that because it doesn't belong, just to try and be safe. The htaccess file, we want to make sure that this is totally clean too. Usually, from my experience, you know, your malware is probably not going to write to your htaccess file, but it is possible, and it could do a lot of damage that way. So we want to just default WordPress htaccess. Whoops, I mistyped that. But we can basically come here, and I believe it's this link, and it will tell us what that file should look like. So again, just the spirit of cleaning everything up to make sure it's all good. We can make sure that this file is totally clean and only contains what it needs to contain in order to run WordPress. So I'll save that, and now we've got a clean htaccess file on here. Well known and .quarantine. These are normal for most hosts nowadays. Good to just kind of check them and see what's there. Make sure and check with your host. Again, CGI bin, that does belong. But now we've got totally clean. We'll just check again for like htaccess files or files we couldn't see in the other one. So I'm just going to run through really fast here and check the folders. I'm not seeing anything, so we should be safe. Okay, so now we need to get those WordPress core files uploaded again. And so I have my clean copy of WordPress that I uploaded here. I don't want WP content again because I've already got that. I don't want to copy that over the top. So I'm going to grab these other two folders, and we'll start with them. And then we'll go to our other files and get those uploaded as well. I'm going to drag those here. Now, one thing that we need, because we totally deleted the WP config file, so we're going to need to go to our backup and get some stuff out of that file, because if that file is not set up correctly, then WordPress doesn't know how to run. It does not know how to work. So what I'm going to do here is, while that's uploading, I'm going to unzip my backup that's potentially infected. Now, you might think, well, now aren't you installing or adding malware onto your computer? Technically yes, but it's made to run on a web server. It's not really made to run on my computer, so it should be just files. It shouldn't hurt anything on your local computer unless you put it into an environment that you've set up for like local web development where it's simulating a server on your computer. This should be safe. If you're worried about it, you can always just get just that file, because that's all we really need, and then delete the rest of it. Should be totally safe while it's in the zip file, because the zip file was created by the server before we downloaded it. But even still, this should be totally safe, because we're not running anything, we're not executing anything on your computer. But we do want to get this WP config right there. Oops. So I'm just going to move it out of that folder, and I'm actually going to go ahead and delete that folder because I don't need it for anything else. I still have the zip backup in case something goes wrong. We lost something or deleted something we weren't supposed to. We can get to that. And so now we just want to open this with a text editor, so we can see what's in here. And we don't want to copy the same one just because we want to, again, make sure it's clean. If you know enough about code and stuff like that, you can go ahead and make sure that this is good to go and just upload the same file again. But for our purposes, we're just going to get the pertinent information and upload it to the existing one. So actually, looking this over, I can pretty well see that it's clean. There's nothing here that shouldn't be here, so we can probably just go ahead and upload the same WP config file. It appears to be clean. All these settings are good. They're what we want to keep, and so it should be fine from here. We will want to change these as part of our securing the site. Actually, there may not even be. Yeah, so we'll probably want to change our salts. These are called salts. Whoops. And I'm going to change the username and password just for security, because those may have been exposed. And you should do that as well. So what you see here is not going to be what the final is. I'm not going to show you what the final is, obviously, for security reasons. So we'll just go ahead and revert changes. We're going to keep that WP config file, and that is safe to keep, because we've reviewed it and made sure there's no injections or it's not loading anything, like that. This is all stuff that belongs there. Now, if you're not sure, then you can go back and just start with the basics and just put in your connection to your database, which was what I showed you there. Actually, I'll open it up again here. So right here, this is the most important part. If you don't have this part right here, oh, whoops. Right here, and then it won't work. And it's not, these lines are commented lines, in case you're not familiar. These are comments, so this is not part of it. So it's really this line here, because it's telling it, whoops, got a heavy pinky finger. And this line here is it's telling it which database to connect to and how to connect, like with the password. And then this one here, the local host, it's on localhost. The rest of this you can get away with not using to some extent. You do also need this one though, the table prefix, so that matches how your website is set up. We're actually going to change that one as well for security. And the rest of these are just kind of optimization type things. So they're fine. They could be eliminated if you want to, but they're fine. They're part of WordPress core and they are supposed to be there. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag WP config over there as well. So once this uploading is finished, then we should have a working website once again. You'll notice I haven't gone back to the website itself. I mean, I've clicked over to it, but I haven't actually clicked on any links or anything because it's going to break. It won't work right now. But once all this stuff's uploaded, it should work at that point. We've got a clean htaccess file. We've got clean everything else. We check the WP config file, make sure it's clean. Nothing being loaded in there. So now everything we're uploading is as it should be, and as you can see, it just finished. So now is the part where we cross our fingers or whatever you like to do for good luck, and we give it a click and see if it reloads. And hallelujah, it did. And if we go down here, it says version 5.1.1, so we've got the right files uploaded. Everything is good to go. I haven't checked the front end, but we do want to go and check the front end. Now it's probably going to look vastly different from what we saw before because we changed the theme and such. And as you can see, that is correct. It is not looking the same at all. But at least we have a working website that is not infected with malware. It's not redirecting. And just to check that, let's go ahead and get a incognito window where we should see that redirect occur on the first try if it were in fact infected. And nope, we don't see it here. Let's try in a totally different browser just to as you can see, it didn't do that redirect, so we appear to be secure. It appears to be safe and good to go. I'll bet if we run our security test again that we'll find out that it is secure also. So let's try it again. And now we want to do some additional like cleanup and securing. So as I mentioned, we want to delete. So the site is still blacklisted, so we still need to work on that. But as you can see here, no malware found. All those stuff we had before, all those results, all this stuff, it is now gone. So it's been eliminated. Our site's clean now. And that was the goal. That's what we're trying to get to. Now, having said that, I never feel safe stopping at this point. There's more that needs to be done. For example, we want to look at the hosting first of all. We want to say, is the hosting on a secure version of PHP? Do we have SSL installed, which this site does not? That's something I'm going to work on. Now, I don't want this video to go on too long, and so those things are kind of outside the scope, but those are things to look at. And I think you can tell, at least in cPanel, you can tell some of those things in the sidebar here, so I want to show you those real quick. So PHP version is 5.6. Okay, that is okay for right now. That is safe for right now. But in the very near future, WordPress is going to stop supporting it. PHP organization is going to stop supporting it. So we really need to get this hosting upgraded to PHP 7. And that's something you need to do too on yours if you are not at version 7 or above. Ideally, we want to get to 7.2. That's the current version right now. It could break some sites if they have really old plugins and stuff like that on there. So you want to be aware of that and do some testing around that first, or you know, go through and eliminate any old plugins and get newer ones that are current and updated, stuff like that. So that's one thing you want to do. The other thing you want to do, as we mentioned before, is like on this one, there's all these other websites and stuff on here, WordPress websites. We want to go through all those and eliminate those if they are no longer being used. Like if they're just not there anymore or whatever, you can take a backup and download it and then just delete it. But we need to clean that all up in case that malware infection went wider than just this site, infected other parts of the server. We don't want to leave those sites on there that are infected. So we want to get rid of those. And then the last thing we can do is to get a good security plugin set up on the site. So it had WordFence, and I think they're a great organization. I'm not real familiar with it though, unfortunately, and so I don't know the best way to configure it. So instead I'm going to go with iThemes Security, which is my favorite. Used to be called Better WP Security before iThemes bought it out. So we're going to go ahead and activate that, and I'm going to show you some things that we want to do on here again to secure the site even further. Index has been deactivated due to an error. The plugin does not exist. So it was loading that index plugin file that we found that was infected with malware as a plugin, as if it were a plugin, and it's not. So because we've deleted it and we visited the plugins page, it went ahead and deleted that for us, or deactivated it. So it's not here, so we're going to clean it up. Actually, I forgot. There's one other thing we should do before we get into iThemes security. We'll do that as kind of a final phase to secure everything, make everything good to go. But first, what we want to do is check the database. We need to check the database to make sure that it is clean. And basically what we want to do is try to look for these references to these domains and stuff like that. We're trying to figure out if there's any of this stuff in the database itself. Now there may be a good malware scanner out there that will actually scan your database and look for known vulnerabilities or known infections. I'm not aware of any at this point that are great. I've tried a few, but wasn't real confident in the results of any of them. So if you have one, please comment in the comments below. That'll scan the database. Based on what we're seeing on this one, since it didn't inject a bunch of malware into the site itself, but instead just did that simple redirect, and kind of what we've seen here, that we're all cleaned up at this point, I feel pretty confident that we got rid of it, that it was in those files, and the files got eliminated and are no longer an issue. So as such, I feel pretty confident that we're safe, but we do want to just do a little bit of searching in the database and check if we can find anything related to that. We might also search for that index plugin and just see if we can find anything about that in here as well. Okay, so I clicked into the database, the West one that we need to work with. And now we can kind of start going through here and seeing what we can clean up in here as well, and then also searching for that other stuff we didn't want. So right away, I noticed there's this WPSD trend table, and you can click on it there or here. I don't know what that is. It's not anything WordPress related. It sounds like it's a social plugin or something like that, some kind of a analytics plugin, something. So I want to do the same thing here really that we did with the files. Is before we try to go searching everything, let's look and see if we can just eliminate stuff that doesn't belong here. Again, take a backup first. So if you don't know how to do that, you want to make sure and either take a full backup with a plugin or something like that, or if you're here in PHP MyAdmin, you can just go to export and you can export just this database. So I'm on the top level, so I can export this whole thing, and I'm going to export it as an SQL file. And the quick settings are usually plenty good. So you just want to say go. And this can take a while. Sometimes it takes quite a while to generate this, but that SQL file is a copy of your database. It's just in plain text, and it can be imported back in using the import tab if something should go wrong. So now we go back over here to the structure, and that WPSD trends, I'm going to eliminate that one because I feel pretty confident that's nothing that's needed. Is ITSEC, ITSEC, that's the iThemes security plugin, so those are okay. I know what those are. We did eliminate Nivo slider, so I'm going to check that one as well. Tweet URLs, we eliminated tweet plugin, so I think I'm pretty confident I can delete that one. That is not a normal WordPress core table. Then there's all these ones that start with WF right here. WF, WF, WF. Those are all word fits, so I can just check off all of those as well. Hold down Shift and get that. And then what we want to do is called drop. We're going to drop those tables. That's the same as delete. And it's going to say, are you sure this is crazy? Don't mess with your database. Yes, go ahead. You can go ahead and delete all that. And now what we're left with is basically just the normal WordPress tables, WordPress comment meta, comments, plus the ITSEC ones. This features one I kind of think is from a plugin. It can probably be eliminated as well. For right now, I'm going to leave it, but I may come back in here and delete it. So ITSEC, users, this is all normal stuff. Term relationships, term taxonomies. This is all normal WordPress stuff. So now we've pretty much eliminated down to what's most important and are what we actually need to keep, right? We've cleaned up the database to a large extent. So now we want to search for some of that stuff we saw before. So one was index. I think it was an index.php file, but let's just see what it gives us. And we'll select all the tables. Whoops. So I want to search all of them. And we'll just say go, and it's going to search. And so now it says, okay, well, there's 2 matches in this folder. What I like to do is open that in a new tab so I can browse that in a new tab and come back here. So it's going to go to that table and give me the results and show me, okay, here's what we found with index. And so I can kind of look through this and see, oh, this is all Akismet results. So that's fine. It's not likely that there's anything injected in there, that could be malicious. I can go ahead and edit one if I want and see if I can find where the index is coming from. I don't even see index in this anywhere. So Not quite sure why we got that result. Again, this is deep database stuff. Is kind of at the very edge of my knowledge, and so I don't totally know. I'm guessing we're going to kind of see the same thing here, but we can go through each of these and see what we can find. Now, just from experience and from the way WordPress works and stuff, WP options is the one to be most careful about. As you can see, there are 15 matches there. So that's the one to look at most closely, because that's most likely where a plugin, which we saw that was actually a plugin that was running, is going to insert something or save something or hide something, because there's so much in there. So this one is our WP comments. So this is just comments. Likely nothing's wrong here, because WordPress has, all kinds of sanitation and stuff like that on comments. It's likely that these are all safe, that there's everything good, but you can just look and just kind of make sure that nothing looks suspicious. And then I will run through each of these other ones as well. And now here we have post meta. Yeah, that's likely to be safe. I looked through those. It looks pretty good. And posts. So this is going to be stuff that it found in the posts themselves or in their their custom fields, that kind of stuff. Well, actually, posts is just the main body. Actually, it should be. So this should be all good. I'm looking at it, I can tell it's not running a bunch of malicious code or anything like that. I accidentally closed the WP options tab, so let's take a look there and see what we can find real quick. So, okay. I guess I didn't need to do a new tab. It just opens it down here. So that's good to know. So I think you can open these in a new tab, though, to edit it and kind of check what's going on there to try to see. Nope, still not working. So I don't know if it's a different version of PHP MyAdmin where that worked for me just fine or not, but you can basically go in here and try to see, okay, so what caused that result? And do I see index anywhere? Yep, right there, index.php. So there was a reference to themes news1 index.php, but that theme is now gone, right? We've eliminated that, so that's not really a factor. And this isn't running any kind of code or anything. It's just saying that's where this theme should be. So we don't need to worry about this one. We can go back and check the next one. Yeah, it looks like we may have to rerun our search. I was hoping the new Windows would allow me to open it that way. Anyway, that's enough for now. I'll do the rest, and you can at least see, what it would be like. So check that again, and then go to the next one, and we'll edit it so we can see all the details. Just let us double click here. Oh, there we go. So you can actually just double click here, and then you can take a peek inside there. So that makes it easier. Index right there. Post start index. That looks okay. Nothing else. Okay. So you can actually just run down on that way. Double click, and it will open it up for you. Then you redo your little find and replace. So that's referring to a plugin. Sitemap. This all looks legitimate from what I know from all-in-one SEO. That's okay. Now, if you don't know if this stuff's okay, because it's the WP options table, usually you can eliminate stuff out of here and be okay. Now, what it might mean is you lose all your settings for a plugin or something on your site. If you do that, then you can go back and set them back to what you know that they are. But if you do need to be careful, don't delete your whole options.php file. You could really goof things up that way. But anyway, so you can go through and kind of see what's in them. And like I said, if you know that it's nothing like this, I could just eliminate that one. And sociable known sites, like I know we eliminated that plugin, so we shouldn't need that anymore. The contact forms, we got rid of that one too, right? So we could really just, again, go ahead and just eliminate those things because we know they're not needed anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those ones. And then what's left is what you want to search through and make sure it's safe. We've kind of checked those and it appears they are. So I'm fairly confident this site is no longer infected, but again, we could go and look for some of these other payloads and stuff. For example, it's probably good to at least search for this thing right here. So we'll start a new search. I'm going to get back up to the database. Okay, so we're back on the database level, and we'll do a quick search. Or it looks like you can even do just a search right there. But we'll just paste that in. Select all. Well, this is not an exact science. We don't totally know what the code might contain. So again, if you know of a good database scanner that actually scans for known malware injections and stuff that can get inserted in the database, I'd love to know about it. Put it in the comments. But for now, this looks pretty good. So let's actually try pop-up and see what we get there. You can actually use the percent sign as it shows right here. So we can say, in order to tell it that it can do anything that contains pop-up. So look at that. I found some in comments and some in WP options. So let's go take a look at options. Okay, pop-up window, pop-up window. This is okay. This is actually code that's in a widget to show the FeedBurner subscription thing. So that one's safe. This is a transient. Now, transients are things that are they're entries in the database that are temporary. They're not made to stay around forever. They're temporary. So if you see them in something like this, you can probably know that you can eliminate them safely. It's not a good idea to just go delete all your transients because there may be things that need to reoccur on a certain amount of time or that need to occur in a certain amount of days or whatever. So if you've got a much more complex site, it's not a good idea necessarily to just go delete these. But if I can see that they may be related to this pop-up issue or stuff that I was seeing, then it's safe. You know, transients are usually safe. They won't goof stuff up too much. If you're running an active like WooCommerce site or membership site or something like that, it may be relying on those transients to do certain things that need to occur on a schedule or after a certain amount of time or whatever it might be. So again, be careful. You don't want to just go through and eliminate them all, but it's okay to, delete any that appear to be related to the problem or whatever's going on. So we've spent enough time in the database now. Now I want to jump over and finish up in theme security and show you kind of how we can secure the site really good for the future in there. If you've got a different plugin you like, that's fine. This may not apply at this point. So they've got kind of what do you call it? An automatic option where you can just click secure site and it'll turn all this on. I don't like that. I like to use my own options, and I like to go here to all so I get everything. So first we'll go to the global settings really fast, and this allows iTheme Security to write to those files. That's a good idea. That's a good idea to have, and these default settings are pretty good. You can add your IP here real quick just to make sure you don't accidentally get locked out of your site. That's a good idea to do. But I'm not too worried about it on this site in this case. The logs is going to record logs of what happens. And I personally like to put these on file only. I prefer that it just writes to a file on the server instead of adding more to my database, just to keep that faster and working better. You can even crank this down to 30 days or 60 days, so it's writing less and less. You can allow iThemes to get some data from your site about how you're using it. It's anonymous, and it just helps them see how you're using it or not. That's totally up to you and your privacy preferences. Proxy detection, usually leave that on automatic, and then you can hide the security menu in the admin bar if you want to. So we'll save those settings. And there's a notification center. Now, I don't like to get notifications. I don't like tons of email notifications, and I want to eliminate those. So I'm going to uncheck these and say, don't send those to me, dang it. You can set the default recipients here, and you can set who those notifications come from if you want to, but I'm going to disable most of those because I don't want them. I set up iTheme security to take care of things for me, not so that it can bug me constantly. Admin user. So this is a good step. Actually, I want to go to 404 detection here. What we see a lot of times is sites try to hit files that aren't there. And if so, this, what it does is it says, remember for 5 minutes what a user has done. And if you hit 20 errors in those 5 minutes, then ban them. And that's usually pretty good. If your site's well set up and it's not got a bunch of stuff that's 404ing, then usually this is pretty safe to do. And what it does is when something keeps hitting a URL that does not exist, like it's trying to find a backdoor or something like that, then it bans them so they get blocked and they can't continue trying to hack your site. This is really good because you can change the default admin username. So instead of just using plain old admin, which all the websites use, you can change it to something else. I'm not going to do it on this site, but it is a good idea to do in order to prevent people or bots from trying to log into your site with that admin user, since they can know what it already is. And away mode is where you can put on a schedule and say, well, I'm never working on my site between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. so I'm gonna just basically lock it down. Nobody can get into the admin during that time. I don't like to do that. You know, I've had experiences with having to work on a site in the middle of the night because it went down or whatever, and so I don't want to totally lock everybody out. You can enable this general blacklist. I think that's a good idea. It seems to be helpful. And save those settings. You can change the content directory. So we talked about that WP content. You can move that somewhere else. I don't generally think that's a good idea or very helpful, but changing the database table prefix, this can be very helpful. So this one was set to WP underscore, which is the default. I think we should change it to something else. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes and then save it, and it's going to change it for me. As you can see right here, it says what it's been changed to, and the settings have been saved successfully. And so now the site's running with a different database table prefix. So anything that's trying to hack the site or to get in or whatever, it can't just assume that those tables are going to be called WP underscore anymore, because that won't work. Database backups, I'm going to disable that because I usually do that on the server level or somewhere else, but you can go ahead and run backups through this plugin. You can also run file change detection. So the reason we deleted all those files and installed fresh copies is to make sure that they are not infected with anything. This feature here will enable the ability to check those files and make sure that they're not getting changed, that they're not ending up as something that they shouldn't be. In this case, I'm not going to use it right now, but it can be a good thing if it's configured correctly and stuff like that. File permissions, this is more just a informational. You can show your file permissions and it will tell you, okay, is that a good way to do that or not? Some of these files it's saying, okay, you shouldn't have it as a 444, you should have it, or you shouldn't have it as a 644, you should have it as a 444. And so you can go into your FTP client or whatever and change those to match, and I'll probably do that as well. Or some hosts have an option where you can just reset file permissions and it will just go through and get everything set for you. You can hide your backend, so instead of logging in at /WP admin, you can put it to something else, WP login. I probably would recommend not keeping that one because that's kind of an obvious one, but you can change it to something else. This can cause problems with some plugins and things like that, so be careful how you use it. I'm not going to worry about it now, but it is a very good idea to help secure that page. Local brute force protection basically just sees if somebody trying to log in a bunch and getting blocked, yes, okay, we're going to ban them. Network brute force protection does the same thing, but then it sends that information to iTheme security, and then they can in turn send information back to your site from all the other sites and say, okay, we need to block these these bad actors as well. They're trying to do bad things. Password requirements, you can set that to make sure that people are using secure passwords. SSL is great. If your host doesn't have an option to force SSL on your site, you want to turn that on. But before you do that, make sure you have an SSL certificate installed. This site does not, as far as I know, and so I'm not going to turn that on right now, but I do want to get that done before I'm finished with this site. There's some advanced tweaks and stuff that you can go through and do just to protect files. For example, protect system files, disable directory browsing. These explain what they are, but you can take a look at it. We're going to say no PHP in the uploads folder. So remember, we were searching for that earlier, whether there's PHP or JavaScript files. This says, okay, we're not going to allow PHP to run in those uploads folders. So that's a good thing to do. There's a number of these that are good and you can do them, but you do want to test with each one and make sure that it's not breaking something on your site, because these are obviously not part of default WordPress. So you want to make sure that that is set up correctly. And then here there's WordPress tweaks, and this is kind of the same idea. You can just kind of get rid of some stuff that's not really helpful in most cases. And you can lock down the XML RPC, which is used for the Jetpack plugin, WordPress mobile app and stuff. So if you use those, you need it. But if you don't use those, you can disable it. And so on this side, I'm going to do all that. Force unique nickname. Anyway, there's a bunch more stuff you can do here. I'm not going to go through it all right now. But then this is the other one that I want to show you. Along with changing the database table prefix, is you can change your WordPress salts. And when I was in that file, I showed you the salts. So here was our PHP file. These are the salts right here. And this will allow you to just change those. So I just want to change those and do something different. And so now that they've changed, it logged me out, because those are used as part of like an encryption basically on everything that's going on. And so once you change those, you're no longer logged in. Your cookie is no longer valid to keep you logged in and stuff like that. So now I've got to log back into it again. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And now I'm logged in, and those should all be changed. So I'm not going to do it, but if I were to go over here to transmit and edit that WP config file and take a look, those would all be changed. They would be different. They'd say something different than what they said before, like I showed you right here. Now, the last thing that I want to do is go in and change the database username and password so that these are no longer what they are on the live site, because that malware could have read those and passed them on, and so they know what those are now, which makes the site inherently insecure by itself. So we'll do that as our final step, and then wrap this thing up. It's gone on a long time. So we're going to find database, or MySQL databases is that one right there. And so what we want to do is go and find that database that we're using. So it's the West right here, right? So we can rename it and we can delete it. Let's go ahead and go to this user. And it doesn't look like there's any way to just change the username and password. So what we want to do is create a new user. So we're going to give this one a new name, and I'm going to block this out so you don't see what it is, but it's going to be different now. It's not going to be just West like the other one is. And then we will generate a really secure long password for it. And that is not secure or long at all. I like 30 characters or more. And we'll go ahead and include non-alpha characters. So the most it's going to let me do is 18. So I guess that must be the limit on this server, how many it can do. So this is not the password I'm going to use. I'm going to generate again without recording. So you won't see that, but just so you can see how that works. That's what you'd want to do. Okay, so now we're going to create that user. All right. We've successfully created it. And we'll go back. And we'll come down here and we want to add that user that we created to the correct database that we want it to be on. We're going to add. And then we want to give them all privileges and make the changes. Okay. So then what we want to do is go over to the WP config file on the server. So now I'm back in my FTP editor and I'm going to edit this. And I'm going to block this out so you can't see, but the database name is going to stay the same. However, what's going to change is the database username right here, and then the password will be the new ones that I just set. Okay, so I went ahead and saved that file, and that's updated with the new one, and I just want to make sure it works. And the way I can tell is just reloading any page in the WordPress admin. If it can access the database, then it will work. If it can't access the database, then it will be broken. So you got to make sure that you get those correct. Once those are correct, and you know you've got the new user working, then you can go back and you can find that database. As you can see here, it has 2 users on it now, and we can eliminate the old one. And we can revoke the privileges. And then we can come down here and then we can just delete the user altogether because they're no longer of any use to us. So now what we have is several things that are all in the WP config file. And I'm not going to show it to you, but I'll show you the old one. If we were to open the new one, we would see that now this username right here, so we would find that the username right here is different. The password here is different. These salts are different. These keys right here that give us like a sort of like an encryption type. And this table prefix is all different from what it was before. So now, if that malware went and dialed home, like when this site got infected and it said, "Oh look, here's the database login info," or "Here's the salts," or "Here's the table prefix," any of that stuff that's related to security, if it dialed home and sent that, it's no longer valid anymore. We've changed it all. So this site can't be accessed through that. And that's kind of the final step in making it secure. We did some of those through the iTheme security plugin, but you can do it there yourself right in the file. For example, if you just Google WordPress salts, it will show you the salt generator right here. And you can actually just copy this and paste it into the WP config file. Every time this page gets loaded, it generates new ones, totally new ones. So you can just copy those and paste them in manually if you want to update that yourself. So I would just copy this, and then if we open up that, this is the old file, not the correct one. Just select that, and the new salts have even more lines. There's additional salts involved in the newest one, so where the old ones only had 4, I think it was. Now there's a few more. You can just update it like that and then save it, and that will update those salts for you, and that makes it even more secure as well. And that is it. So that's how you unhack a WordPress website. Now, this may not cover every scenario. I'm not setting myself up as a server admin type security expert. I don't know all the details of everything on the server, and so it's possible that you could be infected deeper than just the WordPress level. But this cleans up everything at the WordPress level. Basically, we've put everything back to scratch. The only possible place where you could still be infected at this point is if it has injected code into your database. And again, that may require a database scanner to scan your site for you or scan the database and find that malicious code. But short of that, this will fix everything else. And this fixes most of the hacks that I've ever seen. This is how most of the malware works. It likes to go in and install those files on your site. And those files do things that they shouldn't do, right? They insert ads or they redirect like this one or different stuff like that. So that's what we're looking at. This should help you unhack almost any WordPress website. Though, again, this is a big disclaimer. I don't know 100%. I can't predict every scenario, and I don't know the deep level server admin type stuff or what else might be impacted. So I encourage you to work with your host if you have been hacked, and they may be able to even scan your database for you as well.